Hello, Linux lovers. I'm Wimpy. Remember me? Welcome back. Hello, hello. Hello. There's a first time commenter. How you doing? I remember you. All the way from that there Portugal, I believe. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you very much for stopping by. For those of you who are returning after my hiatus from streaming, and those of you, I can see a few of you stopping by here for the first time. So, welcome. So I've taken a few months off streaming. It's been a busy time for me, personally and professionally. We'll briefly look at what I've been doing, what one I've not been streaming, hopefully valuable things. And then we're going to take a look at my plans for the sort of foreseeable future in terms of projects that I'm going to be working on streams here. So welcome back, everyone. Thanks for stopping by. Welcome to all the new people, by the way. One of the reasons why I felt I should really get back and do this is that we actually eclipsed 1,000 followers here on Twitch whilst I was taking a break from streaming. So thank you very much to those of you that followed the channel in the time that I was busy doing other things. I appreciate that. That's a rather marvellous sort of milestone to reach. So good morning everyone. I hope you've got, you know, orange juice or cup of tea, in my case iced coffee, which is particularly refreshing because it's got quite warm here in the UK. So without further ado, I'm gonna switch over. I've been streaming with work, so I haven't completely lost the knack, but my own setup is a little bit more complex, and I hope it all still works. So there's a good chance that something might fail. We'll see how we get on. Right, let's start by going here. So I've written up a few notes, which I don't normally display on screen, but I'm going to today because there's quite a lot to sort of whip through. So let's go here. So let's just take a little retrospective. So I think I've been away from streaming for about 3 months. I think something like that. I think I stopped sometime in March, and that was on the lead up to Ubuntu MATE 22.04 and the 22.04 release. So let's just explain why. So I work at Slim AI. That's where the day job is, and that has been, oh goodness, look at that, it's lost all of my tabs. I'm gonna have to redo this, never mind. So I work at Slim AI, and we've had a real busy period. So it's been sort of conference season for a lot of the sort of cloud native industry events. So we've been busy at DockerCon and KubeCon EU, and there's been a whole bunch of activity around that. So I've been doing lots of presentations, going to events, giving talks, all sorts of stuff. So I had to kind of focus on that. It's been a real busy time at work, and wanted to make sure I was doing the best job possible, because it's been a real busy time for us, but successful too. So that's where a lot of my time has been spent. There was also the small matter of the Ubuntu MATE 22.04 release, and I think the last stream that I did was looking at some of the finishing work I was doing in the Uru themes, specifically for Ubuntu MATE, although I did help with some of the work for Uru generally as well. And I suppose I got to the point where I realised the release was very close. I think probably it was about a month out or 6 weeks out, something like that. And I knew I needed to focus. So I had to just sort of buckle down and do a load of work in Ubuntu MATE. Work that I normally stream, but there was such a lot that needed doing. Hello. Welcome back, Paul. Hello, Fossil Zeb. Welcome back. Hello, how you doing? Is that Zeb? Is that the Zebedee that I know? If it is, hello, welcome back, mate. Good to see you around again. And hello, Paul. Glad to see you. Or I've broken with tradition. I haven't got tea today. I've got an iced coffee. Excellent. Hello, Zeb. Welcome back. Lovely to see you. I know you'd taken a break from things as well, and I saw you pop up in the community a couple of months back, and it's lovely to see you back in the mix again. Welcome back. So there was a load of work that I needed to do, and I could have streamed it, but the problem is that when you've got like real intense work that you need to get through, streaming things is great fun and can be really beneficial for the people that are watching, and also sort of getting contributions to projects and things like that, getting other people involved. This is why I do it, because it's a great way to sort of get wider, broader participation. But I just really needed to get stuff done, and the streaming can get in the way of that. You know, if you've got a few hours to work on something and you stream it, I would say at best you're looking at like 50% productivity of what you would get if you were just focused on it. For example, I think I triaged over 1,000 bugs in Ubuntu MATE in those final weeks, and hundreds of those resulted in actual fixes, and it was going back over the bug backlog back over like 5-7 years in some cases. So I just needed to knuckle down and get that done. And also the work that I was doing in Uru was very time sensitive. There was some quite significant last minute improvements that needed to be made. I mean, of all things, I was unfortunately last man standing who'd got GTK2 knowledge and was able to land the GTK2 color variant themes in the Uru project. Which was a significant bug that was there for Ubuntu and obviously for Ubuntu MATE, because we're, you know, sharing the same base project. So there was a lot of work that was going on in Uru in those sort of closing days. So anyway, the upshot is that Ubuntu MATE 22.04 is out now, and I'm extremely happy with it. As always, the best release, the best release we've done. So that was the majority of where my spare time, hacking time went during that time. And then, you know, we immediately launch into what will become 22.10, and work is already underway there for Ubuntu MATE. And the work that I've done there already is to enable the full PipeWire stack by default in Ubuntu MATE 22.10. And in fact, it is entirely possible to enable that exact same stack in 22.04. So I think maybe in a future stream, I will go over exactly how you can enable PipeWire in Ubuntu, not just Ubuntu MATE, but Ubuntu generally, in 22.04 for anyone that wants to make that transition. I haven't personally done that here yet, because I didn't want to run into any potential compatibility issues with OBS. I'll come back to OBS in a little bit. Although in my testing in VMs, it does seem to work just fine. But there is specific PipeWire support landing in hopefully the next release of OBS Studio. So I may make that transition, you know, in the meantime. So, hello, who was that flashing up? Hello, Popey. How are you doing? Good to see you, mate. So let's just take a look at what was I just talking about. Oh yeah, we're going to get onto a new podcast. So I have joined up with Joe Ressington from Late Night Linux, and we now have a podcast called Linux Downtime. And although it says episode 48 here, what we've done is we've actually stolen the feed. I think it was called Late Night Linux Extra. It's now been rebranded as Linux Downtime. I think I've done 3 or 4 episodes with Joe on that. So this is a sort of a new podcast despite the episode count. And it's not your regular sort of Linux news roundup. It's a debate and discussion style podcast, and the idea is that each week we have a topic to discuss and debate, and Joe and I are going to try and bring in experts in the field that we're discussing in order to sort of have some authoritative discussion. And we're really interested in soliciting the views and feedback from the people that are listening. And the last one that we did was sort of looking at the future of desktop Linux. And spoiler alert, I think that's going to be part 1. I think there will be I'm almost certain there will be a follow-on from this one. But go and have a listen to that. Feedback welcome, and do get subscribed and do all those internet things with that podcast too. Hey, Caffeinated Linux, welcome back. Hey, hey, Henrik, welcome back. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for stopping by. Oh, hello. It's only a gnome. Hello, welcome. Thank you to all the first time commenters. Welcome, everyone. So let's just switch back to my notes. Where are we going with this? So some of you may be aware I created a new project. And this is sort of a bit self-serving, but I think it's useful. So I have a bunch of scripts which automatically run on my .file configurations to sort of configure and set up all of my computers. And I found that I had a lot of sort of copy-paste stuff because there was lots of packages that I was using which aren't in the apt repositories or aren't even in PPAs. In many cases they're in like GitHub releases pages only. So we'll just take a quick look at getdeb and explain what that is all about. So I can go to my GitHub project here. That is this project here. This has been quite active, and since Ubuntu MATE 22.04 has been released, any spare time I've had has been mostly spent working on this project. So the idea is real simple. You can just do Deb-get install, name of package, and it will install that thing just like apt-get, even if the repository isn't configured, even if the PPA isn't set up yet, even if that thing exists in a GitHub releases page. And then down here, there's a big long list of everything it supports. It's getting close to 150 applications that it supports now. And in addition to simply installing things, using the GitHub API, it can also keep all of those packages up to date as well, which was an important feature for me. So if you install anything using getdeb, is it getdeb? It's Deb-get. I always say it backwards, sorry. If you install anything here, it's always going to be updated using the Deb-get update and upgrade option. So that's a project I'm really pleased with, and I'll outline what I want to do with that going forwards in just a little moment. But if you're not aware of that project and you're using Ubuntu, then take a look at that. So then there's another project of mine, OBS Fully Loaded, which has gone through a bit of a transformation. So we'll just take a look at what that is, because it's two things now. So OBS Fully Loaded is here, and this is what I'm using for my OBS setup. Some of you might remember that I was maintaining the OBS Studio snap, and certainly when I was streaming a few months back, I was talking about I was going to step away from the snap of OBS in a responsible way, which I have now done. But this is my replacement solution, if you like. If you want an OBS Studio configuration on Ubuntu, which does everything imaginable, this is it. And it's a script that works a bit like Deb-get, but it's specifically for OBS. And it will install the latest version of OBS Studio and a whole bunch of plugins, extensions and themes in order to give you a very broad capability. But what it does now is it now uses my own PPA, which is my own custom build of OBS Studio for Ubuntu. And this is, well, I think this is a comprehensive build of OBS. So there's two ways to get OBS in Ubuntu currently. OBS Studio that exists in the apt archives, or from the official OBS Studio project in their PPA. And I think this is the best of both worlds. So the official, or rather the OBS Studio package in the apt archives is inherited from Debian and doesn't have any browser source capability included, which is kind of a non-starter for me. I absolutely rely on that. Whereas the OBS Studio PPA does have all of that good stuff turned on by default, the browser extensions, for example. But what I want to do is But the one in the PPA isn't what we call a traditional Debian package, so it's difficult to build other modules and extensions against that PPA because of the way the package is created. So what I've done is I've taken the official upstream Debian packaging and then I augment that so it builds in a traditional way but enables all of the extra services and features and capabilities. So that's what you can get here. That's now built for Kinetic, which will be 2210, and it's built for Jammy, Impish and Focal. So this gives you an OBS build just like what you get in Debian, but with everything enabled, just like you get from the OBS Studio PPA. I am considering contacting the OBS Studio PPA maintainers to see if they want to collab on this now I've automated it, so I think it would be easier for them to adopt. Right, I see there's some questions, so or some comments as well. So let's just scroll back into this and see what we've got here. Oh gosh, I've already scrolled by, so I'll have to read some of these. So hey, Diego says that it was an amazing episode. That's referring to Linux Downtime, I think. Thank you. I'm glad that you enjoyed that one. Paul says he doesn't listen to podcasts anymore. Prefers audiobooks these days. I know that podcast listenership has sort of waned as a result of the pandemic. You know, that I think everyone can see that in their podcast metrics. It's just starting to recover, I think, now. The big question is it a bash script? So this is Paul. I guess, Paul, you're asking if Deb-get is a bash script. Yes, it is. It's a fine bash script. It's possible I may rewrite it in Python, maybe. It's working very well as a bash script, and it's totally maintainable. And again, because it's a bash script, we've had loads of contributions, and you know, when you start to make things more complex, you narrow the potential audience of contributors. It doesn't need to be more complex than a bash script, unless I started thinking about adding proper GUI capabilities, and then it would be better to use a different language for that, maybe. So let's have a look here. If it isn't bash script, yes, very good, Esme. Yes, it's kind of a meme here that everything is a shonky bash script. Although we'll be getting away from some of that. I have got some things I'll explain in a moment that are definitely not going to be bash scripts. Hey King Egypt, welcome back. Good to see you again. Thanks, Henrik. Yeah, I mean, we are, here we are, the purveyors of the finest shell scripts. That's absolutely what we do here. So Caffeinated Linux says, I've kind of pulled away from listening to as many podcasts since I've become active in the Twitch music community. Yeah, it's interesting how, your interests pull you in different directions. I have not listened to any podcasts during the pandemic time. There used to be lots of opportunities when I was commuting and traveling to catch up on the podcasts that I wanted to listen to, and that just wasn't the case. So in pandemic times, I've been watching a lot more video content, Twitch included, in order to keep myself informed about things. And I am now just returning to listening to podcasts because a few weeks ago I was in Spain, travelled to Spain for KubeCon EU, the first time I've travelled anywhere for 2.5 years, and that allowed me some time to listen to some podcasts. So I've actually got my podcatcher reconfigured with those podcasts that I'm interested in following these days. So let's just see here. So it's Only a Gnome asks, and I assume this is about GetDeb, which I suppose I could put up here. Is it this one? There we go, this one here. Assume auto install from Git projects is no more or less risky than from apt repos. Well, it's the same mechanism. So the way that it works, it uses the GitHub API to go and look at a releases page for a project, determine the current version of the package in the Git project, compares that to the locally installed version, and if they're different, downloads the deb, and then actually under the hood it actually uses apt-get to install that package in order to make sure all of the dependencies are satisfied. So the mechanics are ostensibly the same. There is a potential difference between the official repositories and using Deb-get from something from GitHub. You have to, so I have some rules outlined in the README as to what projects we will accept into Deb-get. So these are what's acceptable, and basically it has to be from the official upstream project or maintainer or, you know, communities in order for it to get in. So we're not including random, you know, builds of things from random people on the internet, and we're only accepting stable maintained software. So if anything falls out of maintainership, then it may well get ejected or something. But I'm certainly not accepting anything that, you know, clearly hasn't been updated in years. But of course the packages in apt repositories are signed, and in many cases from GitHub releases they are not. So there's the same, you know, level of risk in air quotes to installing something via Deb-get that peeks into a GitHub project as if you did it manually. The purpose of this is to automate it. Where third-party repositories exist, be it a PPA or an official apt repository from the project or the vendor, those are used in preference to pulling out of GitHub releases. But in some cases, you can see here, like TeamViewer, Tixati, WebEx, these are only available as direct downloads from the vendor's websites. There is no GitHub releases, there is no apt repository. And so but these things will only be added if there is a way for GetDeb to always determine what the current published version is compared to the thanks very much. Who was that? Thanks for the follow. Or what? I have terrible metrics. I can't actually see what's going on at the moment. So thank you for that. I didn't see who that was, but thank you. So if it's possible to peek at the upstream website and determine what the published version is, that makes that update mechanism possible. So there are things that are only published as downloads on the websites of the projects, you know, and there's some big stuff in there that's really useful. So like Zoom, for example, but it will keep it up to date for you. And I think it says, you know, at the top of the list of things, how it works. So, you know, Deb-get install package name, and then you've got Deb-get update and upgrade. And the update and upgrade mechanisms actually run apt-get update and apt-get upgrade as well as doing its own internal update and upgrade process. So if you do Deb-get update upgrade, everything on your system will get upgraded to current versions, just as you would do normally. It's quite a long-winded answer, but hopefully that gives you some insight as to how that's working. Right then, gosh, we've got so many questions. This is I'm a bit surprised. I thought I'd be speaking to myself for most of this. So King Egypt is asking for podcast recommendations in the chat. I'm sure those of you that have your favourite podcasts will let them know what your favourite is. Okay, and Henrik is doing precisely that, in fact. Right, okay, I will, I think we've caught up on most of the chat. Thank you very much for all of your commentary. It's very helpful. So, let's get back to where we were. So OBS Fully Loaded is the way that I get my OBS Studio working, and I'll talk about what I'm going to be doing with OBS Fully Loaded in the future. And then the other thing that's changed is I've got a a new Raspberry Pi development environment. So if I do this, oh my gosh, it worked. Okay. Thank you. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've done this. I can't remember what the different animations mean. I think that means somebody followed. I think so. Thank you for that. Or subscribed, in fact. Oh my gosh. Why can't I see these notifications? All. The Twitch notifications have let me down. So thank you to those of you that are subscribing and what have you. I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you. What money this channel makes is not a lot, but what money it does make it goes into sustaining these projects, and I'll explain a bit more about that in a little bit. So here, this is a Desk Pi Pro case. And I've got a Raspberry Pi 4 8 gig in there, and I have this exactly the same setup at home, and this is my new dev environment. I was using the Raspberry Pi 400, but it was a bit of a faff because it was a bit big and I always had to have that keyboard out, and there was a wired mouse. So I now have this as the wireless keyboard. So this is a wireless keyboard, and it comes as a set with a wireless mouse, and that is a single dongle that goes into a USB port on the Raspberry Pi. These are powered independently, and that gives me a very comfortable way to just, when I'm not working on it, I can put that on, just put the keyboard and mouse on the shelf, and when I need to get stuff done, it's all there. And then what I've also done is I've got for this location at the lodge, I've got a rather nifty little network set up. This was a big pain for me in the past, but now we've overcome that. So let's just bring up a terminal. So if I do this, I have an unusual setup here. So I'm in rented space here. I have a Wi-Fi connection to the facility's Wi-Fi, but no Ethernet, and the Wi-Fi is isolated. So if I have my Raspberry Pi on Wi-Fi and my PC on Wi-Fi, they can't actually connect to one another. So what I've done is I've created this network here on the Ethernet interface of my PC, and I've got a crossover cable going from the PC into the back of the Raspberry Pi, and then I've enabled network masquerading so that over that Ethernet it shares my Wi-Fi connections. This is kind of like the absolute opposite of how you normally do these things. So it shares my Wi-Fi connection. So I've got an Ethernet connection between my Pi and my PC, and those both share the Wi-Fi connection. And it's interesting because the Wi-Fi here is that literally the access point is on the other side of the wall of my office, and my aerial is right next to it. So I literally have a back hall of about I don't know, 50 centimeters. So it's actually decent Wi-Fi. But if I do net discover here, you'll see that I have this network. I think it should discover the Pi quite quickly. Here it is. So 3.18 is my Raspberry Pi dev machine, so I can connect to that and do my work. So both same setup in both places, and this has helped accelerate the turnover of Raspberry Pi projects, which I'll get to talking about in just a moment. So let's, I was in the right place. Let me just stick this terminal away. So let's have a look here. How does one expect to hit the correct keys? How does one expect to hit the correct keys with a Troop keyboard? Well, it's a modified keyboard, but you can see here we've got this is a molded metal Darth Vader helmet on the escape key. So every time I have to press escape, I get to poke Darth Vader in the eye, which is deeply satisfying. So right then, so I've now got a decent Pi setup to work on, and that's already paid dividends, and I'll explain some about that. So plans for the future. QuickEmu I haven't done much work on recently. For those of you that are familiar with that project, or maybe not, that's also over here in a different GitHub organization. So let's just find this. This has really been extremely well received. There's nearly 5k stars on this project, which is decent, but you can see here there's 47 issues and 33 pull requests. One of these pull requests is super brilliant, and it requires me to really put some time in to review that pull request, and I know when I merge it, it's going to create conflicts for a lot of these other PRs, but I think it's this pull request here. So in a stream not too far out from now, I'm definitely going to be visiting QuickEmu, getting as many of these pull requests merged and a new release out. There's some great new features that people in the community have been working on, and it's been far too long. It's been several months since we've done a release, so I need to catch up on that. But I'm really looking forward to getting back to that project and the improvements that people have worked on. And then I was just see, I've written it backwards here as well. Twice, in fact, I've done this. Look at this. I had this problem. Popey was a alpha tester even, for Deb-get, and one of the first bugs he raised was you've written it backwards in all the instructions. And I still do it. Maybe I should create an alias. So we've got more apps to add. There is a bunch of people are adding issue reports for Deb-get. Oh, I see, it's so easily done. And there's I'm not trying to service all of them myself, but I am highlighting them, and occasionally I have a little sort of hour-long try and get through the ones that I'm most interested in. All of the stuff that I'm most interested in is in Deb-get now, and these were all suggestions from the community, and as I find time, or I find something here that's really interesting, like this one, that one we're going to be adding for sure, and also Wayless, that will be coming up as a project in the future, and that is why I have these. So I already have HDMI versions of these. These are these dummy dongles that you can plug in. These are DisplayPort variations. So this attaches a dummy 4K display. And what I'm going to be doing is attaching 2 of these to the extra display ports on the graphics card, doing the same at home as well. And then I'll be able to connect tablets and phones as additional displays to the PC, which will mean I can have things like the chat up here on a tablet, for example, and stuff like that, but manage it as part of my Linux desktop. So we'll be getting into all of that stuff again. So lots of interesting stuff around displaying your Linux desktop across multiple tablets and phones. Surprisingly useful stuff, that. So where was I? Let's have a look. Hello, Dust. Yes, I'm back. I'm back from the dead. Hello, how you doing? I see you guys have been busy with Atom. I'm all up to date. I've got the latest schnizzle here. I'm a big fan of what you've been working on. So let's have a look. So, and then I've got this idea for a community initiative to, oh man, look at this, got it backwards again, to sort of promote Deb-get. A number of the projects are installing software that's in GitHub releases. A lot of the modern Unix stuff is in there, and a whole bunch of things. And I thought for those projects that exist in GitHub only, what would be a cool idea is to have like a template that people in the community can use to land documentation updates in those projects to explain in like 3 sentences how you can use Deb-get to install and update that project software on Ubuntu. I thought that would be a nice way to promote and broaden the adoption of Deb-get, but in a way that is tasteful and valuable to the community. Hey Big Pod, how you doing? Good to see you. Oh, okay. So Dust here in chat is one of the founders behind Atom, which is a tool I use to automate all of my live streams. So those of you that have been triggering the animations and what have you, that's Atom that makes all of that possible. Sounds like there's something new coming. You're gonna just tease us and be vague, or are you gonna share any details on what's coming up? Something YouTube, please. I'll get to YouTube in a moment. Yeah, that's what Atom can do. That very thing there. So Eric just fired off that little animation there, and in fact, I won't switch screens because it will make things go away. But there we go. This is just one of the things that Atom does, and Atom's landed a whole bunch of new features, so I need to integrate some additional stuff now. I think there was a bunch of things I asked for a while back that have been implemented in that period that I was taking a break from streaming. So we'll be getting back to that. Now, so Ubuntu MATE for the Raspberry Pi. I was just saying that, you know, I've got this new setup. Well, if we do this and I use this keyboard that I've got here, what you can actually see here is that dev machine on my desk that I was just referring to. This is it. This is Ubuntu MATE 2204 running on the Raspberry Pi 4. So, gosh, what's the... there we go. Oops. Let's just do that. And there we go. So you can see here, this is it. It's maybe a little bit on the large side. Let's just make that a bit smaller. There we go. There we go. So you can see this is running on a Raspberry Pi 4. So actually, a lot of the work to release Ubuntu MATE for the Pi is actually done, except for one thing. I don't quite understand what has changed, but the seeding of the snap packages isn't working in the build process anymore, even though I believe that's being set up in the right way. So I need to revisit that bit of code, possibly something I'll be doing on a live stream soon, because I really want to get this release out on the Raspberry Pi. But this is using all the full KMS driver now, so a traditional contemporary API driver for the Windows and everything, and X and acceleration. So this is a significant step forward. It means that compositing can be used. I think that we'll see some improvements with video playback from streaming services and such. And all of this work is directly portable to Retro Home, which I'll come to in just a moment. So, so Dust says no, not YouTube. Okay, fair enough. Right. Bridging the gap with chat. Okay. Interesting. So I'm gonna imply there's some kind of chatbot functionality. Although I did see there's some chat sort of features in the current version, right? Okay. Charafu says Atom the editor. Oh no, sorry, I'm saying Atom. I tell you what, let's not be confusing about this. Let's be very clear about what I was talking about. So Atom. If you are streaming using Linux and you want integration, like in audience integrations, this is the only game in town. The only game in town. So this is what I use so that as people kick off channel point redemptions and things like that, it can play the appropriate animations and things of that nature. If there's anyone watching who is not currently a follower, if you follow, we should see an example of what Atom can do. I think it should work. It's like I say, it's been a few months since I've used all of this, but I think it should all still work. So there's a challenge for somebody to accept. So let's get back to what we were looking at here. So yeah, good progress on the Raspberry Pi stuff. The next thing to do... Wow, that's a very generous way of demonstrating how it all works. But there we go. So, thank you, Henrik, for that. So somebody has been... Who is it? Noutbody... Naughtbody, is that? Noutbody has received a gifted sub. There we go. And then...
For the follow, it's only gnome.
Thank you very much. So as you can see, those animations, that text-to-speech stuff, the displaying of the Twitch goals, all of that is Atom triggering things in OBS to turn those overlays on and off at the appropriate time. So that's what Atom does. Hello, Takov. Welcome back, mate. So that's what that's all about, and it's absolutely ace. And there's a whole bunch of stuff it can do now that I'm not taking advantage of. So at some point, I'll also be digging into that again. And this, of course, is a channel favourite. This is the Chelsea Cucumber. That can only be triggered by somebody who's a regular follower, at least as was, and that's Takov, because this is about the most expensive channel point redemption on the on the stream. So thank you for helping demonstrate all of those capabilities. I appreciate that. There's a whole bunch of silly stuff, and I'm sure we'll have to add some more in over the next few months. Right then. So, where were we? So, also, similar to the Raspberry Pi project, I will be releasing spins of Ubuntu MATE 2204 for the GPT devices. Again, that's a project on GitHub. I've had some good feedback from other GPD owners, so we're going to merge in those improvements and release a refreshed copy. Takov still has loads of channel points, it seems. Awesome. Charafu, you make a good point. So then this topic comes up, and this is quite a dense one, and I'm probably going to have to do some dedicated streams on precisely what's going to happen here. Do not adjust your sets. This is intentional. Paul has just triggered the antenna wiggling plugin. Right then. So, Debian MATE and Ubuntu MATE 2210. So, most of the work that I am going to be doing for Ubuntu MATE 2210 is going to happen in Debian, and that won't sound unfamiliar to any of you that have followed my work that I do there, until I tell you this. Debian MATE for the next stable release of Debian will be almost identical in its default configuration and experience to Ubuntu MATE. Thanks, Seb. That's very kind. It's very kind. So, why are we doing this? The first is that I've been collaborating with the Debian MATE maintainers, particularly Mike Gabriel, for as many years as I've been doing Ubuntu MATE. And we have long said we should unify these two projects as closely as possible. So with the exception of, I think, the default fonts and the default color scheme, Debian MATE will become identical to Ubuntu MATE, with maybe the exception of the software boutique. That is a topic for another day entirely. And to support that, we've already landed the Yaru themes in Debian. There's some tweaks that need to be made there to add some Debian branding instead of Ubuntu logos for some of the icons. But that is well underway. And I'm actively contributing to Yaru to support MATE itself, also Ayatana indicators, and also some unrelated works just around Yaru itself. So Yaru is going to become the default set of themes for MATE in Debian. We're also going to do the full Ayatana indicators integration in Debian, just as you get in Ubuntu MATE. And Mike and I are now got a weekly chat, and I'm thinking we'll actually do some of those chats instead of us just one-to-one on Jitsi. We'll do them here so the community can listen in to our planning, and I will share in the future our planning document around this. And we're going to be dropping app menu support from the default MATE experience in Debian and Ubuntu MATE. And if you're not familiar with what app menu is, that's what provides the HUD capability and the global menu capability. The ability to install those capabilities is going to still exist. We're just not going to have it on by default. And that's really because app menus don't work in anything that uses Flatpak, App Image, or Snap. They don't work. The increasingly popular for GNOME apps not to have a menu model at all, so there is no sort of global menu capability or anything to introspect via the HUD. The patches that used to be in Firefox when it was maintained by the Ubuntu desktop team are no longer in upstream Firefox, so things like Firefox and Thunderbird don't have those patches anymore. So there's just this inconsistent experience with app menu, and we feel that an inconsistent experience is a bad experience. So for the sake of consistency, we're going to drop that stuff by default. If you really want it for those apps where you find value in it, things like Inkscape, GIMP, LibreOffice, then you can install the packages, but we're going to drop it by default. And we're also going to create a brand new panel layout for MATE that will be the default in Debian MATE and Ubuntu MATE. We haven't decided what that's going to look like yet, but one of the Ubuntu MATE contributors did a ton of work, and last week that patch landed, which now allows you to align the panel elements from a center point or to the left of right of the panel. So you can now have centered panel applets as opposed to them just being pinned left or right. So it gives us some options to mimic some of the more familiar layouts where you have like the time and date in the middle with like the notification center beneath it. So we're thinking about, you know, what we might do there. And one of the reasons for aligning this work between Ubuntu MATE and Debian MATE is that Mike and I are both contributing to a project for the German government, which is to create a desktop operating system to satisfy municipal use in several different regions across Germany, and it could become sort of the computing platform for all government and municipalities in Germany. So that's a funded project. You may have heard of similar projects like this in the past.
Welcome back, Wimpy smiley face.
Hello, welcome back, Marius. Good to see you again. So the result of that work is OpenSUSE is going to be the platform that solution is built on top of. It's a comprehensive thing. It's not just a desktop operating system. This looks at the technical debt of applications that are used by German government, including aging Windows applications, how those can be run through Wine, remote desktop replacement capabilities for Citrix and things like that, which is where Mike's involvement really comes in because he's the lead maintainer for X2Go and he has a wealth of experience with remote desktop deployments. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using what we do in Debian MATE and Ubuntu MATE as the template to deliver that desktop experience for this government project in Germany, but that will be based on MATE on top of OpenSUSE. So we're... What the heck happened there? Hopefully you can see and hear me again. I've had a full reboot, impromptu full and complete reboot. I tell you what, go automating all of your streaming setup, because reboot and push a button on the Stream Deck and it brings everything back. We'll assume that this is going to work, but golly gosh, wow, that was exciting. So I might just need to jig a couple of things around here. Let's just do this so I can continue to see the chat. Sorry about that, everyone. That's a first. Also, that stream protection seems to work, because I think this has come up on the same stream. I'm not sure. But, wow, what fun. Right, let's just pretend that that didn't happen, shall we? Wow. Yeah, different. So, thanks for sticking with me. I do apologise. Right then, let's let's just look. Where were we? We were looking at this stuff, and I need to push some buttons here. There, here we go. So I was in the middle of explaining what we're going to be doing to contribute to this effort to bring a complete Linux desktop solution to the German government and municipalities. And there is, at the moment, MATE is what has been selected to deliver that. That could change, but we're going to try and build out that solution. I think we've got 6 weeks to do that. So there's quite a lot of pressure on getting that right. So that's a spin-off from stuff. So I will definitely be talking about that here, talking about the work I'm doing in Ubuntu MATE and Debian MATE to facilitate this new sort of desktop arrangement in OpenSUSE, which again is going to be using the Yaru theming, but with the SUSE, branding and things of that nature. So it's exciting times. So something else, I was just talking about automation of my streaming setup there. Something where I want to up my game personally is on automations with GitHub and GitLab. I've got the absolute bare minimum set up for those in the projects that I look after, and I think it's time to have computers do more of the legwork where a person doesn't need to do it. So one of the things I'm going to be doing on these streams is learning more about deeper integrations with GitHub and GitLab. GitLab specifically for the work that happens in Debian, because that uses a hosted instance of GitLab that's available at salsa.debian.org. So I'm really going to be upping my game there. So the stuff I'm going to be covering here, how to make better use of GitHub workflows and templates and things of that nature. So hopefully that's Oh, so King Egypt uses Debian MATE SID. So you'll see some of these changes coming down the wire then quite soon, because I've got streams planned for the future, and one of them is going to be sort of lining up all of that work in Debian that I've done in Ubuntu to bring everything together. I'll be doing that here. That's mostly default configuration and meta package work in order to deliver that consistent experience. So I mentioned OBS Fully Loaded earlier. What I'm going to be doing there is there's somebody in the Debian project that started packaging OBS plugins as Deb packages. I'm going to start contributing to that effort to keep those updated and maybe add some more, but then publishing those Debs in the OBS Fully Loaded PPA as a better way for people to install OBS Studio, all of the plugins they need, and then keep those plugins up to date with current versions. So that's something that I'm going to be working on. Again, it's a bit self-serving because I love doing this live streaming stuff, and I'm always looking for ways to make that easier to maintain. And OBS Fully Loaded definitely helps that significantly. And then Retro Home, which hasn't seen a lot of work recently. Let's see if I can find the appropriate thing. Here we go. So let's go back to here. Retro Home is a project that I started, and it was based on Ubuntu 21.10. Gosh, those numbers are hard to recall. And it's this sort of emulation station type project. So it's emulate all of the things on a Raspberry Pi type project. And I did a lot of work to bootstrap that, but I got to the point where I wanted to start enabling specific device support. When I say device support, I mean this sort of thing. I should get some examples. I think these are the only two. They're surprisingly familiar, but similar. But here we go. That's the. There we go. So these are cases that you can get, that you can put a Raspberry Pi of different models inside. These both happen to be Super Nintendo themed cases, but all these cases have particular properties. Sometimes you need to enable different USB capabilities for things like the power switches and fan controls and things like that. So I want to build specific images for Retro Home to support each of these cases, which includes the handheld cases. because I've got some that are for like the Raspberry Pi type case. I've got one which is for Sony PlayStation, but one that's got a Sony PlayStation with a built-in LCD screen. So I've got a whole bunch of these. In fact, here's a more exotic one. This is a Monster joystick which has a Raspberry Pi built into it. So this is a genuine Sanwa arcade fighting stick built around a Raspberry Pi. So again, I want to have a version of Retro Home which is for this. So you can just download that version, put it on here, and it's all configured and ready to go. So I've got a whole bunch of those. And the other one, another one here I was just mentioning. Here's the PlayStation one. This is going to go to a family member. This one doesn't have the embedded screen, but it does have, you know, power and reset features and stuff like that. So that's a bunch of stuff that I'm going to be working on, enabling each of those devices in turn and making it so you can just download an image for particular model of these cases. Yeah, the cases are cool. I've got them for like the Genesis and all sorts, all of the classic. I've even got 3D printed Commodore cases, and up there I won't get it because it will just get Popey excited, but I've got a Spectrum one as well up there. So that's stuff that I'm going to be enabling and sort of bringing Retro Home to a point of completion based on what is possible within the project. And I've got past streams where I talk about this in more detail, but we'll be returning to this. And the idea is that I'm going to do, like, each week we'll have a theme. This week I will be working on this project, and I'll do 3 streams in a week on a particular project, and then the next week we switch to a different project. That's sort of what I was doing before, so we'll try and get that into a more regular flow. So that's Retro Home. Then NixOS. If any of you follow some of the Linux podcasts, you'll have heard me talking about NixOS for a while. I find it very interesting. I'm going to be upping my game with NixOS. I'm going to install it on one of my laptops and just dedicate that laptop to Nix in order to learn it and potentially contribute to the 2 things I'm interested in contributing to are making sure that the MATE desktop works well, maybe has all of the same capabilities in Nix that it does in Debian MATE and Ubuntu MATE, and OBS as well, the same, like OBS Fully Loaded, but for Nix. And I'm already in touch with one of the NixOS developers. I'm pretty certain that I'm going to be speaking to them on the Slim DevOps live stream, which is our work live stream soon. I will probably have them on here as well, and definitely going to speak to them at least twice on Linux Downtime podcast about Nix and something else that they're working on. So I'm interested in learning more about Nix. Did you go over why you were away? Dust asked this question, so let's just recap. So for those of you that are arriving late, sorry. Yeah, I was just super busy with work. We had a real busy spell with work. I was actually ill, quite unwell for a while, and that's why the streaming stopped. And then after I was sort of recovering, we were just mega busy at work, and priorities were just like really a lot of stuff at work needed to get done. So that was how it came about. And I just fell out of the habit of streaming and it gets to the point where it's like, oh, I'd like to stream today. Oh, but I've got to do all of these updates, and there's a new version of Atom and I need to make sure my config still works. And oh, there's new versions of OBS plugins and that breaks my configuration. And there's just a whole load of that, like turbo lagging, getting going again. So I put some time in to sort of update my OBS to make sure it's compatible with all the new stuff. I think it is. Hardware reboots aside, I've never had that happen before. I'm looking around at sort of an indication as to what could be the cause of that, and I'm none the wiser. Anyway, so going to be doing a bit more with Nix. Yep, and Dust says that the Atom should never break anything, and that is indeed true. I've been able to upgrade Atom from quite an old version to the current version, and I didn't have to, other than re-authenticating, it all just worked. So yeah, that worked terrific. So I was coming from a very old version to the current 1.22 release. All fine, no issues, thank you very much, good job. So I've got a Lenovo C620, I think that's the right model, which is a Snapdragon 850 SoC ARM powered laptop running Windows 10 S, and I recently used that at KubeCon, and it has a like 19-hour battery life. And I was using that, well, we were going to use it on the stand on the booth, but we didn't in the end. I basically just used it for Netflix in the evenings and weekends. And that thing just ran the whole week without needing a charge, and it was blooming great. So I want to try and get Ubuntu MATE on it. So I'm going to, at some point, look at that. That will probably be further out into the summer, because some of these Debian MATE things are more pressing and important. I'm going to be doing more retro gaming stuff. So some of you will know my good friend Popey. And some of you may know that Popey and I did a pilot of something a couple of years ago. That pilot may be returning more polished and fresher and newer. So yeah, if you know what that is, it was called 8-bit Versus. It is called 8-bit Versus, and at some point that's going to be returning with some new ideas brought to it, and also I've learned a load about OBS in the meantime, so expect that to be live stream schnizzle to the max. We're gonna really go for it. The return of 8-bit Versus hype. Popey and I have spoken. We have agreed we're going to do this. We have agreed that some of the things we're going to do, and then we did the usual nerd thing. We thought about all the cool things we could do, and then realised we need to create a whole bunch of technology in order to make it happen. So currently working on just the most ludicrous configuration in order to do what we want to do. But I think it's something that nobody else has ever done with retro gaming with live streaming. So look forward to that. It's twitch.tv/8-bit Versus. Although we may multi-stream to YouTube and Twitch, we're not quite decided on the platform yet, but it's coming back at some point. And I will be doing all of the set design for that in OBS here, because boy have we got some crazy ideas, and I think it'll be interesting to just be transparent about how the heck we're doing this, because last time round we kind of didn't make it clear how we were doing it. It's all open source how we were doing it, but we knew we were doing something different and we wanted to sort of keep it under wraps a little bit, but we'll be transparent about it. Yes, it's going to be the most over-engineered stream, but hopefully in a subtle way. Then I've got a C64 Reloaded, an FPGA C64 project that I started a couple of years ago. I've been waiting on the final parts for those for over 2 years. That was delayed obviously because of the pandemic. Those parts are now fabricated and will be with me soon. So I will be doing some hardware builds on a C64, which is sort of new motherboard, original chip based C64, and an entirely FPGA C64 implementation, which, if I get it right, I might even be able to use as like my games machine for 8-bit Versus in order to spank Popey and his crappity ZX Spectrums. Which is the whole point of 8-bit Versus, by the way. The whole point of 8-bit Versus is when Popey and I were kids, we would have had arguments in the school playground about which was best, the Commodore 64 or the ZX Spectrum. And 8-bit Versus is basically that argument replayed 40 years later. Different games up for play and compare each week. And finally, I need to make a decision about Twitch and or YouTube. I've been streaming here on Twitch exclusively now since I came back to streaming last year, and so King Egypt, this is precisely the point, is that you're wrong. It's okay that you're wrong about it being the Spectrum, but that's the arguments that Popey and I have. If you go to our YouTube channel, all of those past streams are there, including our arguments about which was best. Mini Roach makes the correct observation. So I've been streaming here on Twitch, mostly because I started to do some game streaming and it seemed more appropriate to do that here. But then I kind of got into the Twitch community. So people like Dust that are here, who I know through Mr. Greggles, the drummer. So Dust does all of the like tech implementation for Mr. Greggles on the back end, which is how Atom came to be. And so I've got connected with other live coders, other people doing interesting stuff with OBS. And I like that sort of expanded community here on Twitch, which I don't think exists on YouTube. But what YouTube does have is larger catchment for potential audience for the live streams. So I'm, yeah. So Zeb, that's precisely my point. It is much more, but it's better for building niche, small communities. So I'm still like, I still don't know. What I have been doing is doing the live streams here, archiving them on YouTube. I can continue to do that. But yeah, we'll see. When I look at like smaller YouTube channels doing their live streams, they get significantly more viewers. And part of doing this is to try and encourage people to contribute to projects that not just I'm interested in, but, you know, highlight, surface other projects that maybe other people could find interesting and get involved in. So yeah, I am a Twitch affiliate, though, Zeb, but you know, so if I wanted to multi-stream, I would have to cancel my affiliate here. But there's rumours that they may be changing the multi-streaming rules, so we'll see. I'm just going to sit tight for a little bit longer and see what pans out. But I will consider my options. But I want to do something on YouTube, and I have talked about making actual pre-recorded videos, maybe some short form stuff. So maybe I'll bridge the gap that way, but we'll see. So Charafu says they dislike Twitch. Yeah. It's difficult to know. I think there's a larger desktop Linux audience on YouTube. And certainly when I used to stream on YouTube, I would routinely get 150 to 200 live views. And here, today's a good day. I can see there's 34 people watching live at the moment. You know, 34 to 50 for me here is like, that's a real good day. But by comparison, you know, that's quite low compared to YouTube. So it's not, I'm not interested in the monetization. I'm interested in finding people to contribute and work on stuff. That's live streaming things as being the best way to build interest and contributors to projects. So that's why I'm interested in it. So that brings me to the end of my project plans. Hopefully consistent with stuff that you've seen from me in the past, but maybe with a new twists and turns, with, you know, renewing my interest in Nix, and also now building out sort of my MATE work into more deeply into some of the other distributions to better service sort of some broader sort of, you know, societal goals and objectives. Yeah, so Dust makes a very good point. So Dust says, rather than just dumping VODs on YouTube, have you considered putting up clips? Yes, I have. And I know that that's probably the better way to do it. You know, and Dust goes on to say, you know, short form video might be better for growing there. I agree. I'm thinking videos max length 10 to 15 minutes that cover a topic, quite dense but clearly explained, would be good there. I've got some ideas of what that could be, and actually Deb-get, which is the project I talked about earlier, is actually in the service of being able to demonstrate some particular projects. So for listeners of what was the Ubuntu podcast, we used to do GUI love and command line love. I was thinking of bringing those back as like individual video segments on my YouTube channel. But the other point Dust made was you do a live stream like this, and then you cut out some of the bits from the live stream into individual clips and just upload those clips. And I know that's what I should be doing. That requires video editing and work on my part that is difficult to schedule into my workflow and my available time. So that's mainly why I haven't done it. Topping, tailing a live stream is quite easy, and it is also the lazy option. And they don't get a huge amount of traction on YouTube. So one thing I'm toying with the idea of is seeing if I can find a few people that would be interested in sort of forming a core like production team, and between us we can work on some short scripts for videos and maybe editing videos down, you know, collaborating on stuff so that we can make this stuff more accessible and available to people. You know, talking through each of these projects, those could be clips I could put up on YouTube so people can just hone in on the bits that they're interested in. But we'll see. But if anyone's interested in helping collab on like the content side of things, I've got like a pipeline of stuff I want to cover, and it would be helpful to have people who are interested in help building out some of that. So what's this then? So Charafu says it depends on audience. I watch long videos on YouTube. Yeah, I watch documentary style like videos on YouTube these days. When I'm cooking and stuff, I'm actively looking for like a 20-30 minute video for that sort of stuff. And then Dust says there's a better way that won't eat up a lot of time. Use stream markers. Yeah, you have them in Atom, okay, for the key points. And then channel editors have markers in the VODs to pull out. Yeah, so I don't have channel editors at the moment. That's sort of what I'm explaining. I feel like I realise that there's only so much you can do on your own, but it's also dead cheeky to ask other people to help you like on this stuff. So I don't quite know how to square that yet, but that's, you know, I would like to do more with the stuff that's created here. And then Mini Roach, you know me so well. Maybe you could make a bash script that just clips the best stuff from your latest stream. Well, maybe I make a bash script that does what Dust just said, actually pulls out the clips between the stream markers. Maybe make that a GitHub workflow action as well. Wonder if we could start to join some of this stuff up together. Have GitHub automate the clip creation. So yeah, interesting. And then we've got some other feedback here. So it's Tyler, isn't it? Caffeinated Linux is Tyler. I know I was struggling to get there, but yes, Tyler and I've met on a couple of occasions in America when I've been to events, when we've both been at the same events. So Tyler says, the thing I really love about Twitch is being able to discover and meet new people through web. Yeah, that's certainly been, and that's how I think I've become connected with, you know, other people and what have you. It's been very, very useful in that respect. And Zeb says, what's this? I'm thinking of a 10-minute clip of you laughing. It go viral. Really? I do enjoy a good chuckle. It's true. And Zeb says, speak to Michael Tennell. He will defo overcomplicate stuff for you. Yeah, so that I like complex things, but that's a distinction between complicated. I only like complex things when they do something like interesting and different. You know, I really enjoyed, you know, like getting into all of this stuff with OBS, with the transitions and everything, and, you know, the live updates of the various metrics at the bottom. And I've done live streams on all of these bits and pieces that I've, you know, put together in the past. And, you know, some things aren't working. See, there we go. So, you know, these camera transitions and stuff like that, I enjoy doing all of that stuff. But for 8-bit versus, it's next level. Next level stuff. Probably unfamiliar to. It's probably familiar to Dust in terms of multi computers and all the rest of it, but without something like Atom, it would not have been conceivable. So now when Popey comes up with these crazy ideas, and he's good value for money for crazy idea generation. If he'd have suggested these things 2 years ago, I'd have just gone no. But now it's like, oh yeah, we could totally do that. So, so what's this Dust says? Dust says, I'll drop you an infra plan we've had to do recently. Okay. Yeah, okay, I'll take a look at that. That sounds interesting, Dust. Please do. I'm always up for getting involved in things. And then Mini Roach says, oh yeah, in fact, Doster's I just see a notification go off. So Mini Roach says, oh, you break 1K followers on Twitch, it seems. Yes, and that was why I decided I should return today. I saw that it ticked over 1,000 at the weekend, and I felt like I'd been meaning to get back to streaming for about the last 4 weeks, but there's been events and conferences and things, and I thought, having crested that milestone, it's probably a good time to return and get stuck back into things again. Because as I pointed out, I've been working on projects this whole time. It's not like no streaming means no project development. So let's just go back here. I really appreciate everyone stopping by. I really expected this would be me talking to myself. So it's lovely that so many of you have popped back and shared your thoughts, comments and questions. That was a pleasant surprise, so thank you very much. I will ask if there's any last questions, and if there's not, then it might be time to think about putting a bow on this. But if you've got any questions about any of those topics we've covered, let me know. And I suppose my next thing I need to decide is what is the next thing I'm going to work on here on stream. And I think it might be so difficult. There's stuff that I really want to do selfishly, like the retro home stuff. But I should probably finish the Ubuntu MATE Raspberry Pi stuff, which requires a whole lot of work. So I might have to do some of that work off stream. So maybe the next stream, let's think. We've got today's Monday. My plan is to stream on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. And I think the next 2 streams will be uplifting Retro Home to be based on 2204. And we'll get a new generic build of Retro Home out. And maybe we'll use that as an opportunity to also look at what we can do with GitHub workflows, GitHub actions to automate some of that stuff. Although Retro Home's a bad example for automating because it has to build a massive Raspberry Pi image in a container, which doing that on GitHub is not going to fly. So there is definitely the opportunity to automate some things though there. So maybe I'll do that as the next bit because it's kind of segues into the 2204 stuff. And then next week I'll maybe finish the Ubuntu MATE 2204 builds. Or maybe I'll do QuickEmu because that also is desperate for attention. So it's going to be some of those things. Hello, Sir Jeff. Welcome back. Thanks for stopping by. Good to see you again. I hope you've been well in the last few months. Right. Well, my iced coffee's not so iced and it's a bit warm. I think I might have to nip downstairs and get another one of those. So, I'll be back on Wednesday. It will be something. It might be Raspberry Pi related. It might not though. We'll see how we go. Yeah. So, but definitely within the next couple of weeks, it will be a whole bunch of making Debian MATE much more like Ubuntu MATE, bringing those 2 projects much closer together. Yeah, so that's an interesting idea, Zeb, and it is in my list of ideas to do. It's been in there for ages. So how about some nifty tutorials on things like if this then that to help users expand their user base? Yeah, I could do something like that. I use if so. Oops, let's just bring up this. Oh, I need to be on this view here. If we go here, I'll explain how I'm using if this then that currently. And I need to actually expand it, so I could cover that very topic. This is a Tumblr website with a custom domain, so wimpysworld.com, and the content in air quotes that is posted here is automatically posted by if this then that. So I need to add to this because, for example, I want to add notifications of Linux Downtime podcast releases into here. So I could absolutely show like how you can use this. So this website I never update, it updates automatically, and also if this then that sends out other notifications and things as well. So yeah, I could cover that. I'm a big believer in automation, and a lot of the automation that happens in our Discord channel happens through bots and things as well. Thanks for stopping by, Paddy. Good to see you again too. Yep. So Seb, I think that's a topic that's got mileage and certainly something I need to cover. So yeah, I can do that. Yeah. Well, I think it's been lovely to see everyone. Is everyone else enjoying the going to... Oh, what's this? What's this? I'd forgotten about this. So King Egypt says, it's been lovely to see everyone. Is anyone else going to so JB is Jupiter Broadcasting, which is a Linux podcasting network, London meetup. Now JB are based in Seattle area, but I think Alex, who lives in the US now, but originally, in fact, from just down the road from me. In fact, it's remarkable we never bumped into each other as kids because we grew up like a village apart from each other. He's organising a JB meetup in London, and I know I've said I'm going, but I can't actually remember when it is. But it's on Meetup, on the Meetup website, I think. So I think I need to double check that I can actually attend that, because I can't remember when it is. But I will look up details, and maybe in the next live stream I'll highlight that event is happening, and we'll see who can make it. August, yeah, so August should be fine. Yeah, so Nubbin, thanks. I'll look up the details, and in a subsequent live stream I'll highlight when that event is taking place. And I'm hoping to be there, and if any of you are hoping to be there, it'd be great to see everyone. 5th of August provisionally, King Egypt says. Okay. Yeah, that should be totally doable. That's the start of the summer holidays. It's none of the family's birthdays as far as I'm aware, so that should be doable. So, I'm going to put a bow on it there. Thank you all very much for stopping by. I appreciate the warm welcome back, and I look forward to working on some projects with and for all of you. So I'll knock it on the head there, but thanks everyone, and I'll see you Wednesday, if not sooner. So bye for now. I've forgotten what to do. I think, actually, no, what we do is we go and find someone to raid. Is there anyone streaming anything interesting here? Let's have a little look. Let's just... see if we can find somebody new. Oh god, they've put ads in this thing now. That's annoying. I'm gonna have to start putting an ad blocker on this. I should also say I might be doing something in the UB ports community soon as well. Oh, that looks like an Ubuntu screen there. Raspberry Pi. Okay, this... Oh, it's not English, it's Spanish. Okay, that's unfortunate. I can't immediately see anyone that's streaming, which is unfortunate. I'll do a better job of raiding somebody next time round. Thank you all for coming. I think I need to push this button here. I'm going to push this button here So thanks for coming, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.